Welcome to the big, bustling, thriving Mexico City. So I'm actually sitting in Parque Mexico, which is a beautiful green park in Mexico City. So if you've never been here, make sure to check this park out. It's amazing. So I first visited Mexico City back in January 2018 and I completely fell in love with it. And then I moved here in July 2019, stayed here for 1 year, and then ended up moving to Tulum and Playa del Carmen and staying there for 1 year. And then I recently moved back to Mexico City in July 2021. So I know a fair bit about the city. I did another video in which I talk about all the reasons why I love Mexico City. And in this video, I'm going to get into more of the practical day-to-day things that you need to know about moving to Mexico City or about living here. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about safety. So back in 2018, when I told people that I was going to Mexico City, a reaction that I was getting from a lot of people was, "Oh my God, it's so dangerous. Why are you going there? Be careful, you're going to get kidnapped." But in all honesty, in the 4 years that I've been in Mexico and the time that I've spent in Mexico City, I've never had any safety issues. Like any big city, there's some sketchy areas and there's some posh and fancy and nice areas too. So like any big city, you just have to use common sense when you're moving around and know which areas to avoid and even what to do and what not to do. So when you're in crowded and public areas like Centro Historical, for example, to watch out for pickpockets. And when you're riding the subway, to also watch out for pickpockets. And make sure not to walk around late at night drunk, or even just to walk around late at night by yourself or in groups anyway. So I would recommend taking an Uber. I wouldn't even recommend taking a taxi either, because I've heard of stories of people being robbed in taxis. So always take an Uber and make sure not to leave your belongings in them, otherwise you're not likely to get your stuff back. And also, don't walk around with flashy objects or wearing flashy things, otherwise you make yourself a target. And also, don't walk around with more cash than you need. So a rule of thumb would be about 500 pesos and leave most of your cards at home. Maybe carry a card with you just in case something happens and you need it. Closely related to that, Mexican immigration has recently been asking all foreigners to move around with their passports and their tourist visas. And that's in response to the fact that over the last few years, there's been an increase in the number of foreigners who've been overstaying their visas, as well as the increase in the number of refugees who are moving through Mexico to get to the United States. So in response to that, immigration has been doing spot checks across the country, stopping people at bus stops or in the middle of the streets and asking them for their passports and tourist visas. And if you don't have your passport and tourist visa, or if you're on an expired tourist visa, then you get detained and deported. So make sure you move around with your passport and your tourist visa. So obviously there's the risk of losing your passport while you're out and about. So I've heard of people who take photocopies of their passport instead, but apparently immigration is not accepting that. So obviously there's the risk. If you leave your passport at home, you could get detained and deported. But if you take it out with you, you could also lose it. In any case, make sure you have some form of identification with you, whether it's a photocopy or the original, to minimize your chances of being detained and deported. And obviously, if you're a resident, then make sure to carry your card with you wherever you go. And on the subject of law enforcement, just like I mentioned in my Tulum versus Playa del Carmen video, Mexico City too has this issue with police. And I've heard of stories of people being stopped by the police, especially late at night, and being bribed, frisked, and beaten up. So be careful when you go out late at night and just make sure to avoid the police when you can in general. So Mexico City is huge. It has a population of about 9 million people. So that means it has many neighborhoods to explore. But for some reason, most foreigners come to Roma and Condesa and then just stay there. But the city has so many neighborhoods to offer. For example, Navate, Nápoles, Del Valle, Coyoacán, Xochimilco, Centro Histórico, San Rafael, Zona Rosa. There's so many neighborhoods to explore. And on the subject of neighborhoods, you find that because a lot of foreigners and expats tend to stay in Roma and Condesa, you can get by speaking English in those neighborhoods. But that's not the fact across the rest of Mexico City. In fact, most people in Mexico City don't speak English, so I recommend knowing and learning some Spanish when you get here. And even though I've been here for 4 years and I'm clearly a foreigner, my Spanish is intermediate, but people here speak to me as if I'm a local, so they speak very quickly, and Chilangos here have a very distinct accent, which makes it very difficult to understand, and they speak very fast, so be prepared for that. Fast-speaking Chilangos who speak with an accent. So with a population of about 9 million people, you can expect a lot of noise in Mexico City. It has the typical big city noises like police sirens, ambulance sirens, traffic and cars and all of that. But Mexico City also has very distinctive sounds that vendors have and use when they're selling their goods and services, which makes Mexico City unlike any other city in the world. And I go into more detail about that in my other video. So just be prepared for a very loud city with all types of different noises, and even things like neighbors who like to party loud or listen to loud music and listen to their TV late at night. It's a very bustling city, so be prepared for all sorts of loud noises and interactions with people. And of course, in such a huge city, traffic is a nightmare. So to get around, I suggest using Uber, Beat or Didi instead of driving around, unless you want to spend most of your time in Mexico City stuck behind the wheel of a car in traffic. And closely related to that, public transportation is very cheap. It's about 25 US cents, and the metro system is pretty extensive, so it's easy to get around the city using the buses and the subway. The only thing is, be careful during rush hour because there's lots of people and there are high chances of your stuff being taken by pickpockets. The subway and the buses have a female section only, which is easy to spot because the seats are pink. So the food in Mexico City is, but unfortunately, a common issue that most foreigners experience when they come to Mexico City is Moctezuma's revenge or diarrhea. I've heard of so many stories of people who just have stomach issues after eating the food here, and it's very hard to discern too where you're gonna get sick. You can go to a very fancy restaurant and still get sick, or you can just eat street tacos and have stomach issues, or vice versa. You have street tacos and never get sick, and then you go to a fancy restaurant and get sick as well. So in any case, just make sure to bring Pepto-Bismol with you and drink lots of electrolytes as well. Pedialyte is a very popular electrolyte drink here, which you can get in pharmacies or the supermarkets, and there are hundreds of pharmacies across the city and the country actually, called farmacias similares, and you just walk in and tell them you're having stomach issues and they'll know exactly what's going on and they'll give you the right medication. Don't drink the tap water in Mexico City or across Mexico in general. Stick to bottled water and filtered water. You can also buy the big water liter jugs known as garrafones at 7-Eleven or at Oxxo. Now, I've seen some debates in many of the foreigners and expats Facebook groups where some people say don't drink the tap water and others say I'm born in Mexico, me and my family have lived in Mexico our whole lives and we drink the tap water and we've never had issues. And then some people say I've had issues after drinking the water here from the tap after a few months. So just to err on the side of safety, I say don't drink the tap water in Mexico City and across Mexico. So altitude sickness usually occurs at 1,500 meters above sea level, and Mexico City is at about 2,240 meters above sea level. So altitude sickness here is real. So when you first get here, you find that you're getting tired more easily and frequently and are constantly dehydrated. So when you come to Mexico City, make sure to drink lots of water and to bring painkillers like paracetamol to help with body aches and headaches. And if you're sensitive to altitude or get altitude sickness pretty easily, then make sure to bring some medication with you as well. Another thing to be aware of is that the air quality in Mexico City is not that great. Now, I've read online that inhaling air here in Mexico City is the equivalent of smoking 7 cigarettes a day. Now, I'm not sure if that's true, but you can check the air quality in real time by monitoring apps and websites like AirVisual, which I've linked to in the description below. So just be aware and be prepared for the air quality situation when you come to Mexico City as well. And if all that wasn't bad enough, let's talk about earthquakes. Now, Mexico City is one of the most active earthquake regions in the world. On top of that, Mexico City has soft underground earth because it was once on top of a lake. In 1521, when the Spanish arrived in this area, they found Tenochtitlan, the seat of the Aztec Empire, which was a city built on top of a lake. The Spanish drained and filled in the lake and rebuilt the city as Mexico City. And the soft earth that Mexico City is on magnifies the effects of the earthquakes. I've experienced at least 3 earthquakes during my time here, and although they weren't major, they were still pretty scary. The last major earthquake was in 2017 and was at a magnitude of 7.1. It killed 370 people and there was lots of damage. It occurred coincidentally on the 32nd anniversary of the 1985 earthquake. Condesa, Roma and Juarez tend to have the most damage as they have older buildings there. Mexico City has earthquake alarms which sound seconds before the earthquake actually happens. So it gives you some time to get ready and scramble out to the street before the earthquake actually happens. And you can also download apps like CDMX 911, which I've linked to in the description below. And although I mentioned a lot of disconcerting things in my video like earthquakes, Moctezuma's revenge, pollution, and altitude sickness, don't let that deter you from coming to Mexico City. Like I mentioned in my other video, I think Mexico City is one of the best cities in the world, and it's one of the reasons why I've kept coming here over the last 4 years and have spent so much time here. This city has so much to offer and you should definitely check it out. And if you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Adios.